Hey guys, Kyle from YWT here, back with another Philadelphia Flyers post-game recap. It's a good one today. We got a good one today. This was a really, really fun game between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Washington Capitals. It is February 7th, and man, it might not have been the cleanest game, because boy, it wasn't the cleanest game. But it was 7-4. Scott Laughton had a hat trick. Sean Couturier came back and had 2 goals. He looked good. It was a really fun game. And going into a Flyers Capitals game, we always kind of know what to expect because these two teams have been rivals for a very long time. And a lot of the principal pieces have been in Washington for a while. This was our first time seeing Zdeno Chara in a Washington Capitals jersey, and it was terrifying. But other than that, the team's kind of been a lot of the same pieces, right? We've seen Backstrom for a long time. We've seen Ovi for a long time. At this point, we've seen John Carlson and Tom Wilson for kind of a long time. And we kind of know what we're getting into. It's always going to be physical. Ovi's going to do Ovi things, and Ovi did Ovi things with a goal, 2 goals, and at least 1 assist tonight, or today, rather. I'm sorry. Ovi did Ovi things, and the Flyers managed to survive that. And it probably wasn't your best 60-minute effort, because I think your best 60-minute effort of the season was Friday night against Boston. But this was probably the most resilient win, because it would have been easy when the Capitals go up late in the first period. They go up 2-0. Ovi scores 10.5 minutes in on the power play. He did the Ovi thing. Not a ton you can do about it if you're anybody. If you're Carter Hart, you would have liked to see the penalty kill mark him a little better. But as far as Ovi scoring on the power play, at a certain point, you kind of can, you give him one. The Tom Wilson goal was another phenomenal play by Alexander Ovechkin. It's a really phenomenal individual effort, and we've seen it out of him for 15 years. He forces his way through the zone and just kind of bullies his way to the net and gets the puck to a wide open Tom Wilson, who just kind of jabs it in from the crease. It would have been easy at that point for the Flyers to give up. Maybe you yank Carter Hart and throw Brian Elliott in there because he's looked pretty good recently. I don't think it would have been. I don't think anybody would have criticized Alain Vigneault if he makes that pull. Not necessarily because Carter Hart played poorly, because I don't think he did. Carter Hart played really well, especially as the game moved on. But just to kind of send the team a message at that point. You're down 2 goals and, got to shake things up because it's late in the first period. Alain Vigneault doesn't do that. Instead, he sends out the line that probably did the most tonight or today. Again, I'm sorry. It's just something I'm going to do. He sent out the Scott Laughton line. And tonight, a lot of this season, it's been kind of whatever line Joel Farabee's on has been kind of the Joel Farabee line. Tonight, it was the Scott Laughton line, because Scott Laughton played maybe his best game as a Flyer. Certainly his best game of the season. Scott Laughton played a really good game and was in the right positions and was physical on the puck. And he was everything that we want Scott Laughton to be, and everything that Ron Hextall probably thought when he drafted him, or it might have even been Paul Holmgren who drafted him, but it's everything we thought Scott Laughton was going to be coming out of the draft as a hard, physical, 200-foot first round pick, and a guy who can push things, and he celebrated that tonight with his first career hat trick, and he earned every inch of it, even the third goal, which Farabee kind of laid off Craig Anderson's pad and kind of left there for Scott Laughton. It was a little bit of a shot for a rebound. He was trying to help Scott Laughton out. But either way, Scott Laughton scored the 6th goal, rather. He put the dagger in the Capitals goaltending. Sean Couturier put in an empty netter, but the Scott Laughton was the dagger, and that was the hat trick. And it was a really nice goal. He cleaned up the rebound that Farabee left for him and put it, he elevated it over Craig Anderson, who did not start the game. Vitek Vanacek started the game, and he was pulled after the 4-3 goal, I believe. Vitek Vanacek actually got pulled. I'll talk about that in a second. But Scott Laughton deserves a lot of the credit tonight. Again, I do these videos kind of right after the game, even before the 3 stars of the game have been announced. But I imagine Scott Laughton will be your first star. Sean Couturier might be your second. He looked really good tonight coming back from this little injury that kind of kept him out. We didn't hear any updates, and then all of a sudden he practiced yesterday and played today. And in a world where they're being tight-lipped about COVID stuff, it's kind of what you expect. We didn't hear that he was getting close. All of a sudden he was ready to go. We heard a little bit of a tale early in the game that Alain Vigneault was going to try to keep his minutes under wraps, manage his time a little bit. I don't know how much time he ended up playing. I'm going to try to find it here real quick, but he ended up getting a fairly significant amount of ice time. Let's see if Sean Couturier ended up, okay, he only ended up with 16 minutes of ice time, which for Sean Couturier is fairly low. But he played pretty well. He ended up scoring right away in the third period, 5-4. He scored the first goal on Craig Anderson after he came in for Vitek Vanacek. And that was it. The third period was kind of all Flyers here in terms of the scoring. The Flyers did a good job of getting a lead and playing with a lead. They didn't sit back. They fought back from 2-0, and the whole game they were playing like they were still down 2-0. And we've been asking for that kind of desperation and that kind of effort out of this team. And maybe it took playing a team like Boston and losing 6 out of a potential 8 points to Boston. Let that sink in for a second. You had Boston on the ropes in 3 of those 4 games, and you ended up with 2 points out of all 4. But regardless, that might have been the wake-up call this team needed, because they came out tonight and they played. It's still early. Guys are still figuring things out. But this was the closest we've seen so far to playoff-ready hockey out of the Flyers. And obviously, it's very early. We're right around the quarter point of the season. But the fact that we're starting to see this team click is a very, very good thing. And I think Sean Couturier coming back is going to be the major storyline, as it should be. You're returning Selke winner who, hasn't really played much this season. He played, left 12 seconds into the first game. Or the second game, rather. I'm sorry. If this team is clicking, and if this team is starting to figure things out, and you just added Sean Couturier back into the lineup, the rest of the NHL needs to look out, because we saw last season, before the pause, that the Flyers were a dangerous team. 9-1 in their last 10. They were the second hottest team in the league, behind only the Boston Bruins, which, by the way, was the one team that they had lost to. We've seen this team figure it out and click and roll for a while. And in a 56-game season, if this team clicks and rolls like they were clicking then, and we get 10 or 15 games where this team is above 85% winning percentage, at a certain point, the playoffs become a certainty. And it's a little early to start talking about that. But if the team plays like they played today, they're going to make the playoffs. And if they play like they played today for the next 2 weeks, they're going to win a lot of hockey games. Things were a little messy at times. The Capitals' top line really showed out. Right? Nicholas Backstrom scored. Tom Wilson scored. Ovechkin scored twice. That's your 4 Capitals goals. And they were all from the top unit. At least one of them was on the power play. I think only the one was on the power play. I don't understand Peter Laviolette's decision to pull Vitek Vanacek in a 1-goal hockey game. Watching the game, I was even questioning it in our group chat. And producer Mike mentioned that, he hadn't really played well. And I went back and looked, and I don't know. I don't know how many of these goals were his fault, right? You probably want to get a stop on the goal that ended up getting him yanked. And that was JVR taking a puck that had rimmed around the boards. JVR caught it basically at center ice heading into the Washington zone. I think he actually gathered it inside the Washington zone. And he just transitioned to a shot quickly. He was all by himself. He knew that. He didn't have time to make a move. There was a Capital coming. But he just gathered the puck and rifled it at the net. And he picked an absolute corner. If you're a Capitals fan, you probably want to see Vanacek get a save there. I understand that. but he picked a corner, man. And this is JVR. JVR's got a shot. At a certain point, I don't know. It's a tough look because this guy is your starter while Samsonov is still in protocol. It's tough to pull him in a 1-goal game that you're still very much in, right? Every time, at no point did anyone have a 2-goal lead after the Capitals' 2-goal lead was cut. Until the end of the game, until Scott Lawton absolutely, buried it. It was a 1-goal game the whole time. There was never any sort of extended lead. I don't get it. I'm not a head coach. Peter Laviolette is, a very successful NHL head coach, and I'm sure he has his reasons. Maybe he was just trying to get his team going because he realized they didn't quite have it. But whatever he tried to do, it didn't work. And Craig Anderson, and it was a high event game. It was a very energetic, very up and down, lots of shots, lots of hits. It's a tough game to come in too cold. And right away, Craig Anderson had 2 flyers in his kitchen and the puck bouncing around in the crease. And I don't know if Craig Anderson ever had a chance to settle down. And even the Sean Couturier goal, 30 seconds into the third period, if he's settled, maybe he gets a stop there. It wasn't a particularly strong goal. Sean Couturier just kind of fired at the net. That being said, the Fly, you know what? This isn't a Capitals pod. This isn't a Capitals show here. If I'm a Capitals fan, I might be questioning Peter Laviolette right now, but I'm not. I'm a Flyers fan. And in the meantime, we have a 7-4 victory to talk about. And again, this might not be your cleanest performance of the season. Because again, I think Friday night was probably your best 60-minute effort, minus that little 2-minute stretch in the third period. I'm sure we'll talk about that on the podcast. But I think today was probably your best winning effort. And this team would not be denied today. And this team decided that they were going to win a hockey game. And they went out there and did that. And I can't wait to talk about it on the podcast, which I'm actually getting ready to go record with Kevin right now. Make sure to follow this channel. You can follow us here. You can also follow us at YWT Podcast. YWT can also be found on sportstalkphilly.net every Monday morning. And sportstalkphilly.com every Monday morning. I'm sorry. And other than that, we're getting ready to go record this podcast. I think it's going to be a fun one because we have a lot to talk about. We have the Boston games to talk about. We have today's game against Washington to talk about. We have the return of Sean Couturier and the missing Travis Sanheim that we saw this morning. We will talk about all of that and more. That episode will be coming up tonight at 8 o'clock. You can find it here. You can also find it everywhere you find your podcasts, iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll be back Tuesday. Flyers play the Capitals again, an hour earlier, 6 p.m. puck drop. Don't forget, set your alarms. So I'll be here an hour earlier too. I'll be here about 8:45 instead of 9:45. And I'll see you then.